Bad.
Thank you. Thank you, Victoria and Dean, and thank you for the reading. Wasn't that a great reading? I picked it out, but she did a great job of reading it. But I don't know, that came from Perfect Power Within. It's a book that we use in the prisons. It's just great. And I thought that the whole idea we're talking about today is the Spirit of Christ or Christ consciousness. And to me, that spoke a lot to that power within. So last week, Debbie gave us a good description about what we mean by Christ consciousness. It's kind of a term that we might wonder about. And she said it could be summed up in the word namaste. God, indweller of the soul, Spirit of everyone. That's when we say namaste. When I end my blessing, I say namaste. And what I'm thinking about is that light within me is recognizing the light within you. Simple as that. There's one power in the universe, created everything and everyone, and it experiences life through us, and that's that light. That's that Christ light within us. So today we are going to focus on that indweller of the soul and that spirit within everybody. But I want to review a little bit about what Debbie talked about last week. She's talked about 3 characteristics of self-actualization. And that first characteristic is independent of the opinions of others. Now, maybe you guys are, but I'm not. I care what people think of me. I don't like to hear bad stuff. And she was mentioning that Terry Cole Whitaker wrote a book called What You Think of Me Is None of My Business. And what a powerful thought that is. And I have used that when I have been confronted by somebody that is so lovingly going to share with me what somebody said about me. And I just say, I'm so glad that I learned a while ago that what other people think of me is none of my business. Hint, hint, none of your business. So anyway, that's one of the things. Independent of the opinions of others. The other thing is detaching from the outcome. Now, we spend a lot of time talking about the outcome, like we're going to go over to Julian Pete's today, and we're going to talk about outcome. We're going to work on vision boards and think, what is it that I want in my life? And it's important to set intentions. If we don't set an intention, it's like going out on that sea without having a goal in mind. Where am I going? If we don't know, we're just going to go this way and that way. So it's important to have intentions. And yet, if we get so hooked into what it is that we want, that's what I want, that's all I want, we can make ourselves miserable, because if we see that that's not what's happening, we can be pretty unhappy. So it's important to say, that's what I want, or whatever is higher or better, a little nice tag on any prayer we say, and then be willing to be grateful. That's what Debbie was talking about. Be grateful for whatever we have right here and right now. Be grateful for that. Keep your eye on the prize, like Paul said, but just be grateful. We don't have to get so hung up on that end result that we're miserable. So detach from the outcome. And the third thing about this self-actualization is no interest in power or control of others. Of course, I don't do that, but some of you, I think, do. And so Debbie told a story, which I thought was perfect, about these dogs that are chasing the cat around. The cat's going nuts, running until it figures out, if I jump up on this shelf or the refrigerator or whatever, the mantle, these dogs they can't get me. And it's the same with us. When we are being chased by gossip, or we're being chased by fears, or we're being chased by something that doesn't serve us, we can move up a notch in our consciousness and get away from that. look down on the craziness and say, well, that's craziness, but I'm just not gonna get involved in that. Self-actualized people are connected with humanity and the divine. Ernest Holmes says, well, he says a lot of stuff. I'm not going there yet. So, so today we're talking about this capturing of the spirit within, the spirit of Christ, Christ consciousness, or namaste idea that Debbie talked about, God indwelling, an indweller of the soul, spirit of everyone. And we're going to talk about how we incorporate that into our lives. And I want to share with you a quote from Eric Butterworth. He's one of the New Thought leaders. He said, Christ was not born in Bethlehem, Jesus was. The birth of Christ goes back much, much further than that, to Genesis, where it says, God created man in his own image. Jesus was not the creation of the Christ in man. He discovered the Christ dimension in himself and fulfilled its potential. And so the Christmas story doesn't end with the birth of Jesus. Instead, it foretells of the Christ in you, that light, and compels you on your own awakening. This is what Christmas is really about, the celebration of the birth of the Christ light in you. So we're talking about that very light of our very Creator. It's in each and every one of us. And yet, doesn't it sometimes seem to you, maybe in your life, that where is that light? I'm not feeling so light. I was watching this movie. It's from I must have found it on one of those funny, Prime Time or whatever it was that I pay $9.99 for probably. And the story was really kind of fun. They're like 30-minute segments, and this woman was bipolar. And you don't really know that going in. You think, what kind of a crazy movie is this? And shows this woman, she gets out of bed. Oh, she's so excited. She goes to the grocery store, and she's really, really looking forward to this particular juicy peach that she's really kind of craving. And so she goes to the grocery store. And, of course, part of this movie is, it's like West Side Story, where all of a sudden they burst into dance and song in the aisles and stuff. And, this is her, that's the manic side, right? What's the other side? Manic and depressed. Yeah, she's manic. So she, at the grocery store, she's dancing through the aisles. And, of course, then she sees this guy that, kind of gets a little, attraction there. So she starts talking to him. They set up a date, and she's just, she's on top of the world. And, of course, she left her apartment in a mess because that other side of her, that depression side of her, where you don't make the bed and, you lay in that bed for days on end. And she goes home, and she walks in the door, and all of a sudden that whole excitement that she had, all she can do is make it to the bed, put her head down, and lay. It was quite amazing how, and she didn't have a handle on this disease, and some people do. Some people, and at the end of it, she finds a way to find balance in her life with the help of some medication. But think of somebody like that. My light never goes out quite that far, but it does go out. I'm feeling pretty chipper, and all of a sudden, like, dark cloud kind of takes over. I'm like, what's that about? Where'd that light go? And sometimes it's our thinking. Sometimes, for me, if I think about it, I'll think, oh, the light went out when so-and-so said such and such to me at 9:30 this morning. And I didn't deal with it. I didn't think about it, but it put my light out. And so I think that happens to all of us a little bit, and we just have to be aware that we can get that gunk off that light, and we can let that light shine again. I had, years ago, a great niece of mine. We'll call her Jenny because that's her name. and she was kind of a precocious little thing. She was very bright. She had two brothers, and of course she had to be kind of tough because of the, being around these brothers. She was afraid of nothing, but she's kind of, we called her the princess because she was kind of sassy. And I remember my sister saying she was babysitting her one day, and Jenny took her little toys and she put them up on a table or a counter like that, and she lined them all up, kind of like a general, She gets done, she looks at my sister and she said, "Don't touch." I mean, this is the kind of little girl she was, 3, 4 years old. She was really bossy and the princess. She was in charge of everything, cute as a bug. And then it seemed like there was a particular time when she changed. And I remember her getting her hair cut. And I saw her, and she walks right up to me with a big smile on her face, and she said, "How do you like my haircut?" She was very friendly and nice. And her mother told this story. She said, "I'm getting the kids ready for school. There's an older brother and a younger brother, and then Jenny. She's getting ready for school or daycare or wherever they're going. And the boys were acting up, giving their mother a really hard time. And Jenny is sitting there in her chair, and she looks at her mother and she says, "Aren't you glad that I'm nice now?" She knew something had happened. She made a decision to take that bushel basket off of the light that shone in her. I'm telling you, and obviously my nephew's wife, mother of this little girl, noticed it. Jenny noticed it. She noticed that she was nice now. It just amazed me to think that a little girl like that could be that aware of letting her own light shine, and she did that. So I think this is a good time for all of us to be aware that we've got that light and shine. We can take that bushel basket off of it as well. So it's just something to be aware of. That light within is always there, and we can always uncover it. Ernest Holmes said, I told you I was going to quote him, so in studying the life and teachings of Jesus, the most unique character of history, we discover a few simple ideas underlying his philosophy, the embodiment of which enabled him to become the Christ. And I'm going to cover 3 different ideas that Jesus really seemed to focus on that we're very familiar with. Ernest Holmes' book, Science of Mind, I believe 1/3 of it includes Jesus' teachings. So he was a pretty good disciple of Jesus. Anyway, the first thing that Jesus taught was the kingdom of God is within. Remember how many times, I don't know if you guys did all these Sunday school lessons and stuff, but the kingdom of God is within. That was kind of a general subject. And one of the stories about that is a story that is in the book of Luke. And he's talking about the Pharisees asking Jesus these tricky questions. The Pharisees like to trick Jesus up, or try to. And Pharisees, this is gospel truth because I got it from my Missouri Synod Lutheran sister. They know the Bible. I said, who were the Pharisees anyway? Because I kind of forgot where they were. And Sadducees were like the priestish kind of hierarchy, and then the Pharisees were the experts on religion. And they believed that not only in the law that was passed down from Moses, but they had laws that were equally authoritative and inspired by God. They were, and they strictly obeyed these laws, the laws that were passed down from Moses and the ones they had established. In other words, the ones that they made up. And some of those, and I'm sure there was reasons at the time for this or that, but, one of the laws at the time is that you weren't, on the Sabbath, you weren't supposed to even light a candle. That was work, so you weren't supposed to do that. Come on. You weren't supposed to go more than 2/3 of a mile away from your house, because that would be work, stuff like that. And so they were always trying to, they were trying to impress people about, we didn't do this, we did do that, we follow all these laws, that's why we're these higher ups and you're not. And they would try to trip Jesus, and Jesus was very critical of them. And so they said to Jesus, they asked him, when is the kingdom of God going to come? When is the kingdom of God going to come? And he said, the kingdom of God does not come by observation, neither will they say, behold, it is here, behold, it is there, for behold, the kingdom of God is within you. And that was, one of his major messages. Don't be, because people were trying to figure out when Judgment Day was coming or whatever, but he was saying, just know that kingdom of God is already within you. So that was the first idea, the first concept. Behold, the kingdom of God is within you. The second one is, it is done unto you as you believe. And of course, we know that, as we believe, so it is done unto you. And our beliefs are so important. In Matthew, the story is told of this centurion. Centurion was a commander of the Roman army, and he'd been kind of observing Jesus from a distance, and he said to Jesus one day, he said, I've got a son who's dying, and I know that you have the power to cure my son, and I'm just asking you to do that. Jesus says, well, let's go on over to your house. And the centurion said, you know what? I'm not worthy to have you come to my house. You just say the word, and I know my son will be healed. And that is exactly what happened. Jesus said, go, let it be done according to your belief, and the son was cured within that very hour. So according to this belief, the guy had so much faith. He said to Jesus, you don't have to come to my house. I know you don't have to come to my house. You just say the word and it's going to be done. And Jesus said to his disciples, he said, truly I say to you that not even in Israel have I found such a faith as this. This guy really trusted that Jesus could do this, and he did. And then another story from Matthew is a woman who had some kind of a blood disease, and she went up to crowds were around Jesus, and she knew if she just walked up to him and touched the hem of his robe, she would be healed. And that's what she did. She goes, she doesn't say anything to him, but he notices her. And he turns to her and he says, have courage, my daughter, your faith has healed you. And she too was healed at that very time. And we talk about this in our circles. We talk about this trust and this visualization and this feeling of good that will be there for us, and we can already embrace that. There's a guy in Lino Lakes that we work with, and he said, for years he said, I have already had my freedom. I feel free. I don't feel like I'm incarcerated. And he said, every day I visualize myself in my own backyard. And he said, I know without a doubt I will be released from this prison and I will be a free man again. And he has no parole date. He has no, what do they call that, out date. Most of these guys, if I say, do you have an out date? They'll say July 15th, or, they know exactly when it is, because that's when they're going to be released. This guy, nothing. And that doesn't affect him. He says, I know I will get out. And he's the kind of guy that I mean, he started studying our philosophy a few years ago, and he could really run the class for us, couldn't he, Monty? He's just filled with the Spirit, and he's certainly doesn't have a bushel basket over it. He lets it shine. So that's the other thing, is that idea of it is done unto you as you believe. And then the third lesson that Jesus emphasized was these things and more you shall do. Now that's pretty powerful. And, I think we don't all really embrace that idea, because it takes a lot of faith to think that we could do what Jesus did. But that's what he said, greater things than these you shall do. And Jesus understood this from Holmes again. Jesus understood his own nature. That's his oneness with God. He understood that. He knew that as the human embodies the divine, it manifests the Christ nature. Jesus never thought of himself as different from others. His whole teaching was that what he did, others could do. That's a pretty powerful message. And I think that as we, particularly around this holiday time of year, as we take some time to maybe look inward, think to ourselves, are we really taking Jesus at his word? The things that I've done, you can do even greater things than these. So we're talking about capturing the Spirit of Christ, keeping that indweller of our soul, that namaste light. We're talking about letting that shine brightly, not covered up with gunk. Does get covered up, we can scrape it off. We can take that bushel basket away. So how do we keep it shining? Well, one thing is we remember. We remember the passages that Sue read. We remember that perfect power is within us. It's always there. It doesn't go away. Even when we feel like we're alone, we aren't. That power is within us. We can turn it to at any time. And the second thing is by knowing it is done unto us according to our belief. So it's important for us to keep our eye on the prize, keep our thoughts positive and constructive. I know sometimes I am up against something and I say to myself a verse that I think St. Paul said, Lord, I believe, help thou my unbelief. Because, I got doubts and I don't want to have doubts. I believe, help thou my unbelief. I am willing to see and feel the good which I desire. Simple as that. You just have to remember to go there. Remember that we can just say to God, I'm putting myself in your care. And then the third is by accepting that what Jesus did, we can do as well. We can do it for ourselves. We can do it for others. And this can be because of the divine incarnation within everyone. And so I would ask you at this time, take a deep breath. I'm going to do a spiritual mind treatment. Get real comfortable where you're sitting. And I know there is but one power in the universe. That power is a power of all good. It is joy and love and peace and abundance and balance and order. It is the perfect solution to any perceived dilemma in life. And I know I am one with that power. It is within me. It experiences life in, through, and as its creation, in, through, and as me, in, through, and as all of its creation. And even though I've had sometimes forgotten that perfect power within, or that Christ consciousness, sometimes I felt alone and helpless and sad and powerless, kind of like that lady coming home from the grocery store in the movie. And she says, I was so happy, and boom, now I'm sad. Sometimes that has happened, even though I now set an intention to remember that that light is always within. That light is always burning. That light is always available to comfort and guide, uplift, to change anything in my life, enhance my life in any way that is for my highest and best good, for myself, for the lives of those who I love, people that I include in my daily prayers, just knowing the highest and best for friends, relatives, city, politicians. Just know it is all good. And I am grateful that this is the way the law works, that my word spoken, and it is done unto me as I believe. And I'm grateful that this is the way the law works, that that's all I do is speak my word into that law, and the law does the work for me. As Reverend Debbie says, God does the heavy lifting. I speak that word, and I release these words now to the beneficent conspiracy, which does the work. So it is.